Alright, so before we get to the actual meat and potatoes of this discussion, I just want to make sure that you do understand that regardless of what we say during this conversation, regardless of what valid points we are gonna make about why the new Ghostbusters reboot, remake, reimagining, rehash, whatever it is gonna be utter garbage, chances are there will still be people who will attempt to negate all the valid criticism we're about to make by basically accusing us of being racist, sexist, misogynist, misanthrope.
Sony for one of them.
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to point it all out.
Or whether it's a good movie, just that there's female presence in it and that they actually are engaging about things other than men.
It is entirely pathological. When you were watching Ghostbusters, you were having a good time laughing at the jokes while following the story. But feminists like Anita were biding their time until they could replace all the male parts with women. And if you thought it will end with Ghostbusters, you have completely underestimated their resolve. You just don't understand their brand of crazy. They got their checklists, and they can find problems with absolutely anything. And I do mean anything. If you thought ISIS could erase history, then wait a few years and see what a few radical feminists can do after we were foolish enough to give them some power, because their MO is to nag and complain and slash and burn. Given $150 million, you'd think they would make something new and tell a news story, but it was just too tempting to lay waste to what men have made and build on top of it, so people will never know what was there. If you thought modifying the language was impressive, just imagine what you have to see once they've done with our media.
What I will say is, from the get-go, I thought that this was going to be a bad idea. Historically, I've generally been against remakes and reboots, especially of things that are already awesome to begin with, like RoboCop and Total Recall and a whole bunch of other ones. It's just don't do it, you don't need to. So when I heard that Sony was rebooting Ghostbusters, I was like, it's just such a bad idea. It's not gonna be a good idea. It's just not a good idea. And I think that potentially one of the reasons why this trailer is doing so badly on the internet is that Hollywood may have finally taken things a bit too far with the remakes and reboots, and audiences may be finally rejecting these things and just being like, no, I don't want this. No. I'm really hoping, that's what I'm hoping is the case. No. Now, we also have to address the elephant in the room, all right? So obviously, with this new reboot, they have replaced the male Ghostbusters with an all-female team. A lot of people bring in the hate for having an all-female team. They want to blame the movie being bad on having an all-female cast, when really it's not an all-female cast that's the problem. It's everything about this reboot, unfortunately. So yeah, you can't blame women for this. Please don't blame women for this. It's not our fault, okay? Blame the executives who came up with this dumb idea. This is a much beloved franchise by millions of people all over the world. And you know what's cooler than just showing a bunch of women redoing the same beats that a bunch of men have done in the past, which is totally not progressive in any way, shape, or form? You know what's more progressive? Having a team of both men and women Ghostbusters that work together, and they have their own unique talents and their own unique skills. I want to promote men and women working together and respecting one another more so than oh, we had an all-male team, so now we should have an all-female team or whatever. I think that's a bad idea. This trailer leads me to believe that this is going to be another one of those Hollywood algorithm movies where they're like, well, Jurassic Park, it works so great, let's just repeat the beats in Jurassic World. New Hope, man, everybody loves Star Wars, let's just repeat those beats in Force Awakens. And I feel like this is going to be a lot of the same, where it's oh, Ghostbusters works really well, let's just repeat all the beats again. I saw a few beats that were repeated in the trailer, all the three of them are in a library, and there's a ghost, and then one of them goes up to the ghost, and then the ghost is obviously not a friendly ghost. That happened in the opening scene of Ghostbusters 1, and you're going to show me in your trailer the opening scene from your trailer is going to be the opening scene from Ghostbusters. It's like, no, like that's not what I want at all. And, you know, there's also the hearse thing going on. They repeat that where it's like, oh, we didn't want a hearse. Oh, I guess we have a hearse now to drive around in. That's another beat that was done. You see them in the subways again. And you also see them coming together like as a team in a similar way than the last team. It just looks like they're making the exact same movie except switching the gender roles between the Ghostbusters and making them women and then making the Janine Melnitz's character a man. And it's just like, that's the only difference. Cheap is a better word. It's cheap. It's just they can't keep doing this forever. And I think that the buck stops here. Side note, another thing that's really odd to me is the fact that they decided to use a bunch of CGI stuff. Yeah, the effects just looked a little just too slick CGI for me. You know, the original, oh man, they look so good and they're like scary and like it's fun. I don't know how they did the effects, like, so that's fun. It's a mystery. That's such a practical effects achievement in filmmaking. You know, Steve Johnson, like, was just like this kid, like doing all these effects. You know, you see Star Wars, like The Force Awakens, they heard the call on the internet and they were like, no, we're gonna do practical effects, and they looked really great and everybody was really excited for them. So with a movie like this, it seems like a real missed opportunity to not hop on the practical effects train. If somebody's putting a gun to your head and you have to make another Ghostbusters movie, and you have to make it, you just have to make it, then instead of doing what they did do, what they should have done is do Ghostbusters 3. We stay in like the same world, we expand upon that world, you know, go somewhere new with it, see what's been happening in the modern times, and like see what's happened between like the 20 years since we've seen the Ghostbusters. That would be so much fun. Like, I would love to see that. In fact, just go read Max Landis' treatment on Ghostbusters 3. He did a whole thing or what he would want to see, and I would just watch that movie because it's all about like franchises and it's like a dying franchise. And in his version, he does have like females and males on a team. And another thing that I thought that has never been explored that I would love to see in a Ghostbusters movie is having a psychic on the team. You got to expand the universe. You got to build on the world. You can't just do the same things that happened last time.
Bingo.
Marvelous. Quite extraordinary, actually, how many movies don't pass this test. Because it's not even a sign of whether it's a feminist movie or whether it's a good movie, just that there's female presence in it and that they actually are engaging about things other than men. To prove that this is actually a systemic problem and not just a few movies here and there, I'm going to show you a couple films that don't pass the test. You get the point. This is only just a few films out of the many films that don't pass this test. When I call it a systemic problem, what I mean by this is that it's not just a few people here and there that don't like women or don't want women's stories told, but that rather the entire industry is built upon creating films and movies that cater to and that are about men. Next time you go to the movies, just ask yourself these few questions. Are there 2 or more women in it, and do they have names? Do they talk to each other? And do they talk to each other about something other than a man?
Do I think that you should go see the new Ghostbusters movie? Probably not. I don't think that you should, because I think we need to send a message to Hollywood to stop remaking awesome movies from the 80s that were awesome that you're never going to top. And part of it is our fault. It is audience's fault because we pay to go see these things. So what I'm really trying to say is if you go see Ghostbusters, you're responsible for the Back to the Future remake that they're probably gonna make eventually, okay? It's gonna happen. I'm just waiting. No! Just waiting.